Direct from San Francisco, California, in the heart of the Tenderloin, welcome to the Kiff and Ang Podcast. San Francisco Lockdown Edition, a subsidiary of Kiff and Ang Productions in association with Kiff and Ang Studios. Online at kiffandangpodcast.com. And now, Kiff and Ang.
Kiff and Ang Show Season 2, and we are getting into the nitty-gritty, into the meat, into the heart of some San Francisco drama. And I think most San Franciscans have heard of the zebra killings, but Ange, my investigative reporter here, she's just dug up so much juicy goodness. Ange, let's kick it off. What kind of tease? First of all, can you tease a little bit about some of the zebra killing drama?
Well, let me just set the scene. It's 1973. It's October of 1973. You know, the Vietnam War is we're hoping coming to an end, but there's a lot of demonstrations. There's a lot of actions being taken that are militaristic against the protesters. It's a very, very similar time to what we are experiencing right now.
Mm-hmm.
The Black Panthers at that time, from 1968 to somewhere around 1971 or 72, the Black Panthers were just rocking it. Over in Oakland, they created the breakfast and the lunch. And
making a real difference.
Yeah, and then things
Mm-hmm.
started to happen, and there's some conspiracy theories about how Huey Lewis might have gotten set up and some other member of the Panthers. And so things really then got militant in the movement for racial equality, which again applies to this time. And so that's why I really wanted to kick off our notorious crimes of San Francisco with the zebra killers, because it's not so much about who the killers were and who the victims were, although the victims are kind of there's one or two of them that are kind of interesting. It's
Mm-hmm.
about times, and it's about what was going on and how extreme it got compared to what we're thinking extreme is right now.
The first of these murders happened in October, early 70s, and it wasn't pretty. It was a couple, Richard and his wife Keita, were kidnapped into a white van. They were kidnapped, forced into a white van. They were out on a beautiful evening walk around Coit Tower, though I'm not sure if I could manage it. Man, that's a high hike. Anyway.
They must have lived up there.
Yeah, that's my thought. Anyway, apparently she was sexually assaulted, and then her head was nearly cut off. Nearly. And then one of the other killers attacked Richard, and he survived to tell the tale. And that was the beginning of it. And that's abnormal too, that there were more than one person doing this kind of a murder.
With
Yeah,
machetes.
can you imagine that? That's a lot. That's a lot of cutting.
And in the back of a van. I mean, and the fact that there was a period of time between that happening and then the next crime happening, which I don't even know how the police figured out that they were related, because it goes from machetes to guns.
Yeah, because you think with the serial killers that
they're supposedly use the same thing. Yeah,
like the same thing, and also that they're solo. And this was obviously a group. It was their killers, and their second victim, and you mentioned it too, was former San Francisco mayor, and people say he's just a really nice
historic
dude.
San Francisco. Yeah,
nice
historic
dude,
San
Art
Francisco mayor.
Agnos.
Yeah,
and he was shot twice, point blank.
Yeah,
he was just chatting on the hill at Potrero Hill there.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't even wrap my head around that. It was, that was the polarizing thing right there. There must have been some sort of communication or something that was said during those attacks between the two survivors that they were able to share with the police for them to determine that they were relative to one another, and then there was other attacks too. Our one sheet doesn't cover like everything, but it does begin to build, and they reach a point where the unprecedented move, and you guys are just not even going to be able to wrap your heads around this in the modern day. of the San Francisco Police Department.
San Francisco Police Department.
Being
And you and I were just talking about how
great and
open,
wonderful
and we
they
thought
are.
that they were great and wonderful, but you look back and the 70s weren't that long ago.
They did not have a good time in the 70s, which is probably why they're like, really good at dealing with like riots and protesters now, because maybe they started a little earlier.
But guess what they did? Police officers started stopping and questioning large numbers of Black citizens who happened to look like the description of this killer. They didn't even have a picture of this person. They just stopped Black people on the streets. And if they were cleared and checked, you'd get a special card, a zebra check card, and you could show the police that again. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine, first of all, being a Black person and then being stopped? And don't forget this, don't forget that, don't forget your zebra check card, so I don't accidentally get turned in as a mass murderer.
We have Reverend Cecil B. Williams from Glide Memorial Church, made famous in a Will Smith movie, but famous in San Francisco for many years already. Started a suit against the city of San Francisco and took it to court and said, that's illegal. That's a civil rights violation.
So that's awful.
Exactly. So then we get some national news there for going to federal court for harassing people on the street just randomly because
nonetheless, there's still a group of men out there killing people.
Right.
So it doesn't, there's all this awful backlash, but at the end of it, there's still a group of guys out there killing people.
And the numbers are building. Yeah. There's not just two. In total, we're aware of 14.
One murder. I'm reading your one sheet right now because it's horrifying. A murder that the police didn't know about until they began to apprehend the killers was that of a homeless man abducted from Ghirardelli Square, who was then taken back to the killer's hideout. They tied him up and gagged him, and I don't even think I can read. Hacked his limbs off until he died. His body parts washed up later on Ocean Beach. All the other victims, I guess, were shot. I don't know.
So here's the thing. So the police are doing this investigation and there's witnesses and they get composite drawings and they figure out that clearly it's not one person. It's different people. It's not even just like the same group of people. They can't say, it was the same two guys. It's different people each time. And what they find out is they believe that it might be racially motivated and that all of the suspects are Black and all of the victims are white. Now, here's the thing. It's the zebra killers. Okay, so here's the thing is every time a murder occurred, it was either different people or a different set of people, or there was like one or two people different, and there was enough witnesses to the situation that they were able to get composite drawings. The police department figured out that all of the offenders were Black, all of the victims were white.
How did they know it was a group of people and not just different killers, though?
So it was things that was said to the people in the presence of the survivors.
Oh, I see.
Right.
So they made it clear that they were a group.
Yes, and that they're, and the group was actually called the Death Angels. And they got composite sketches of a lot of the members. And
Angels. Now, you said that they were called the Death Angels and that they were what?
So the idea with the Death Angels was, in order to gain membership to this very extreme Muslim group, you had to kill a white person. And that was why there was, it was confusing about the offenders and the types and ways that people were killed. So it was,
and I'm by no way saying that this group is any different than a group like the KKK.
No, exactly.
Like, people are crappy, no matter what color. This
this is not, this story is applicable to our date, not because of who the offenders and victims are, but because the times were the same, and what sent those offenders to that level of hatred towards us was a huge buildup. I mean, we're talking starting in the 50s with Selma and, you know, the Greensboro Four and stuff like that. That's a huge, long, of course, the fight was way longer than that, but this is what it built up to.
Right.
So, you know,
that level of anger that people would have dehumanized themselves so much that they would get into groups and go out and target innocent people.
So here's one of the big misnomers about the whole situation, because it's called the Zebra Killers. And somehow people have equated that as being a racially motivated name that the police gave the case at the time. And
the zebra because it's black and white.
Right.
Yeah.
And what I found in looking into
I didn't even think about that. That's okay.
Yeah,
You said it's not, though.
No, what I found in looking into the case is that the police assigned a special channel on their radio system to it, and that was the Zebra channel. So,
well, did they
whenever
name
they
channel Zebra before or after?
It was the Zebra channel, as in Z channel.
Okay.
Like they do A for whatever that military.
Oh,
word.
Z is actually for zebra. Okay.
Right.
I wasn't in the military. I don't know.
I know, but
my hubby does. He's got it all.
I've watched those TV shows, where they're like,
they don't usually get to Z is the deal.
I know. And then sometimes for some reason, people randomly just start giving you that. Have you ever had that? They're like, and this is Nancy, she is, and you're like, okay, well, what? Just say the letters.
Oh, yeah. I like to make my own up. Because, my name is Kiff.
I do too.
So I will do it.
I don't know what the words are.
Because I'll say like K is in clean. Oh, that doesn't work. K is in.
You know, the other thing too is life during the rampage in San Francisco. This is a small town. You know,
so small.
And there was.
I grew up in a town of 500 people, and I used to think San Francisco was the hugest. And I've been in the area for maybe 10 years now. And boy, San Francisco feels so small.
It's a small town. It really is. It's like 850 or 900,000 people that really live here. So, and the murders came in 2 waves. And so that was like super terrifying to San Francisco. I mean, people were locking their doors. And of course, it probably didn't help that every white person in town was probably looking cross-eyed at every black person in town. You know, it was just.
Of course. And it does nothing but wedge.
More
division. It just more divided people.
So, but the final break is that those composite drawings and a $30,000 reward. One of those guys saw himself in that composite drawing, and he knew the gig was up. And he did what they say there. You know, when every good cop show they're going to do that, they're going to give you up and take the deal. So you better get to it quick. This guy was on it. He was on it. He called the cops. He was in. He's like, I'll tell you everything. Give me some witness protection. And he got it. He told them.
So there was a snitch. He snitched.
Oh, yeah. He told them everything. And, so witness protection, though. And he didn't go to jail. So there you go.
Oh, so he was part of the group, huh?
He was part of the group, and he filled in all of the blanks. And there was ultimately it was a group of 4 black Muslim men. They called themselves the Death Angels, and they were in the end convicted of 14 very light.
By the way, when you say black Muslim, that is in no way representative of Islam in general.
No.
And in fact, when I think of Oakland, I almost think of it as I know that there are people who genuinely practice as a spirituality, but it's also associated with some violent groups, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So we have our own for several
not discounting anyone
I'm from Chicago. I'm from Chicago area, and we have Nation of Islam.
Louis
Farrakhan, and not that the Nation of Islam is extreme, but there are members that have like in any group,
Let's assume that this is an
interpreted
extremist.
things.
Yes, this is an extremist group
And
this.
absolutely, this was considered an
Yes.
extremist group. They were never
Yes.
claimed by any other organization as being members.
I can hear my Muslim friends going, no. Hey.
Yeah. So let's be sure that we're clear on that.
Hey,
So
no.
So
that being said, let's talk about these 4 dudes. Who were they?
So there was JCX Simon. There was Jesse Lee Cooks, Larry Craig Green, and Manuel Moore. And
listen. JCX was in San Quentin till 2015.
Oh.
No,
that's so anyway. So back to these guys.
The jail system sucks, and I hate it. I digress. Anyway.
It does. That was a whole different story. So now it turns out that one of the guys has died. JCX Smith he died in 2015 in prison, and Jesse Lee Cooks has agreed to postpone his parole hearing until 2025 after his 80th birthday. I feel like that's like I'm no longer a danger to society kind of parole versus and then
he hasn't asked for it for years. Maybe it's a chance for him to kind of at least be with his family at the end. I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Larry, if you know any more about Jesse Lee Cooks, feel free to add it in the comments section.
Put it in the comments for sure.
No, and if you have anything, we want to know all of your opinions.
Always. We will revisit this if we got it wrong. We will make a whole show out of everything that we got wrong on every video we make. If you put that in the comments, we'll address that. All right. So then we have Larry Craig Green, who was denied parole this year and must wait another 5 years. He's 69. So, geez, I mean, so JCX must have kind of been a leader kind of guy, because it seems like he's older.
Yeah, JCX died at San Quentin at the age of 69 in 2015. Jesse Lee Cooks agreed.
Oh, wait, no, I'm thinking of Jesse Lee Cooks is the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, those two guys would have been kind of older than these last two guys, Larry Craig Green and Manuel Moore.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
Now, Angela, did you get us interviews with these gentlemen? Did you arrange that? No? Ladies and gentlemen, she's fired. She's gone.
No, I'm going to blame that on Sarah, my imaginary virtual assistant, who clearly is not doing her job. And perhaps we could drop them a postcard. I don't know. I used to have a pen pal in San Quentin. I don't think they're inclined to probably talk to us, but
probably. And I respect that.
I respect it entirely.
You don't have to. You don't have to like anybody. That's your right. It's America.
So
but let's just maybe you could send them a little canteen.
Oh, that's a good idea, and just let them know that we talked about them and that that we I don't want to sound like we're two white women trying to make stories applicable to a situation in the world right now, which is June of 2020. But the reality that we're facing is we're talking about something that happened in 1973 that was inspired by things that happened in 1950s. And those things were, you know what I mean? And so it's like, it hasn't fixed itself. And at some point, the conversation's got to come and we got to get over it.
It definitely gives us a good point of view. One of the reasons we are at it definitely gives us one point of view as to one of the many multiplicity of reasons we are at the point we're at today. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It's a thread.
What has changed?
The thread in the carpet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Next week, what are we going to be talking about, Ms. Ange?
Well, okay, so next week, it's not necessarily next week. It's as soon as we can get to it. We're going to talk about one of my...
used to saying things like, next week. Like, I've had too much background in mainstream media, so you're going to have to forgive some of the weird habits.
It's okay. Because I do not want to have a consistent date. I want fans that are like, oh shit, they dropped 3 shows. We got to binge. So,
Cat wants in. And next week.
Next week, we're going to talk about the Golden Dragon Massacre. Is that Mars of Mars Studio?
This is Mars here in Mars Studios.
Nice.
And he wants to know all about golden dragons. He is a golden dragon, he says.
Well, Golden Dragon is actually a restaurant. So, and it's a pretty historic sort of shootout that happened in Chinatown. And it has a lot to do with gangs, but not the gangs you guys are thinking about. This is like a whole different level, a whole different culture, a whole different world. It's so super interesting. I cannot wait to tell the story. I have to say that researching notorious San Francisco crimes is one of my favorite things to do so far. And I want to hit on, we are also going to be doing this month some Pride shows, some Pride episodes. So those will be coming out. Yeah. So make sure you guys hang out for those. We're on iHeart now, iHeartRadio. Our podcast is pretty much infiltrating the internet. World domination shall be ours.
I know about it. We are on iHeartMedia. They are huge. They are big into the podcasting. And I know some people over there, but we didn't get in because I know those people.
No,
we didn't know that.
We got.
I've got a little background in the mainstream media, so
no,
exciting.
We just went through their process. That's all. Nothing special, but it's exciting. So,
dude, it's really exciting actually.
So now,
iHeartMedia, we're on Spotify, we are on Stitcher, we are on iTunes, we're on YouTube. Look at, I even set up a light. Your house is adorable. I'm recording in the closet under the stairs.
I am not a professional broadcaster as my partner Kiff is. And so I sit in a living room with sparkle lights and my fake sun over my plants.
Yeah, you're like a professional researcher.
The opinions and topics discussed in any Kiff and Ang production or show are meant to be controversial, provocative, and possibly create a conversation that is not already being had. The most important thing to remember about this production is that it has zero educational or historical value other than from a purely popular parody perspective. By listening to this podcast, you understand that it is solely for entertainment purposes. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, parody, scholarship, and research. Kiff and Ang Productions is meant to provide parody in an already difficult life. If you find no humor or entertainment in our productions, well, for goodness sakes, don't listen.